Hello, hello everybody. Get ourselves set up here for Human Design Hotline. Get my TikTok crew set up here. Hello, hello everybody. Happy Wednesday. I always say whenever we get to Wednesday, I can actually feel like it's already next week already. The week is already over. The time goes so fast. But it's insane that tomorrow's already going to be the 4th of December and our full moon in Gemini, which is even more wild. So welcome. If you guys know where Gemini is in your chart, what house it sits in, you can jump the line of me responding to comments on my post that I just made for the full moon in Gemini, if you want to put that in the chat below. And I'm just going to let my Patreon folks know that they can get their complimentary reading today. If you guys do want a reading with me tonight, I do have a spots available. 10 minutes, $8. You get a link with the notification, or excuse me, you get a link that sends you the recording. So you have that to look back on again and again. I started reading, so that was my own fault. I can't multitask at the same time. There we go. Hi, Stephanie, welcome. Hi, Rebecca, welcome. And I am going to actually work on my PowerPoint as some folks are joining in as well, because I have a PowerPoint that I make for all of my Patreon members when we do our full moon circle. Hello, welcome. Oops. I feel like I just did my last full moon circle with the full moon in Taurus, which is kind of crazy, but such is life, especially during the holiday season. And we've been talking a lot about where Uranus is right now too, in Taurus, conjunct our last full moon, so that's its own interesting situation. So I can see. Hello. How are you? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. We're just getting started here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the full moon in Gemini, and I'm just finishing editing a couple links here. If you guys know your big three, if you want to drop any of your astrology or human design questions in the comments below, now would be the time to do so. I also do a little bit of psychic mediumship too whenever I'm reading for folks, so let me make sure that's good. Hi, Ro. Hi, Katie. How are you? Hi, Simone. How are you? Nice to see you. Hi, Maite. Hello, hello. I'm actually just working a little bit on my PowerPoint for Patreon tomorrow for our full moon circle. I'm doing it a little earlier these last couple times because the full moons, or at least this one, is at, let me see, I have it up on my screen here, 6:14 p.m. my time. So 3:14 for you, Simone. Aw, likewise, likewise. So it's going to be in gate 35, which is the gate of change in human design. Basically, I just wrote the little line that I wrote to give you a cheat sheet now. Yeah, full moons are all about releasing, and when it's ruled by a Mercury ruled placement, it's all about releasing the words and vocabulary that no longer serve our growth. So what's interesting about the full moons instead of the new moons is that they're about releasing so that we clear out, kind of like decluttering, in order to bring stuff in its place. That's good. It's like burning sage. You never want to burn sage and then not burn something after, because it clears everything and then welcomes the new in. So if you guys want to sign up for your Patreon reading, now you guys can do that too, to start off the month strong if you wish. But I will also be on, I think I'm going to be on tomorrow. I'm 50-50 right now because I'm going to see how I feel after the Patreon circle, because I have a couple things that I had to kind of work around for tomorrow and today unexpectedly. So just playing Tetris with the schedule at the end of the new year, or the end of the year before the new year. It's funny because we can feel that kind of collective exhaustion, and it's kind of a bummer because oh yeah, absolutely. I recommend Palo Santo or anything that you find kind of called to. But just like acknowledging the collective heaviness right now also is important, because a lot of us are like, especially in my space, I find we have things we want to accomplish and we have things that we want to do, but it's like, oof, like, where is this tiredness kind of coming from? Because I get like, yeah, I could be like physically tired and that makes sense, but why do I feel like I'm so fatigued even more so? And yes, changing of the seasons, of course, like that's going to cause some changes and paying attention to that change as well. But also for those of you that have like heavy placements where you have like your solar plexus undefined or your motivation center undefined, it's kind of like being able to pick up on the world's energy and noticing that if a lot of people around you are tired, you're going to pick up on those sensations. Oops, just burnt my finger. Those sensations, those emotions for other people. So I always say to ask yourself, myself also, I also have an undefined solar plexus. And I always say, whose shit is this? Because I know it's not necessarily mine. And it was funny because I had a situation today with somebody that has been a client of mine for a while and is very sweet, but you know, some can get frantic sometimes. And in that franticness comes the kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of making a lot of mistakes. And so we were working through that today, where it's like, if we want to be able to solve one problem and work through one major issue or one major life change, it really is about how you do or don't sweat the small stuff. Hi, Morgan, welcome. And so our reactions to the small things are indicators as whether or not we're able to really sustain bigger life changes. Oh, I love that. I was just talking about, what is MHD? I know human design, but our medical human design. Hi, Tara. I don't know what the M part is. Morgan human design. Oh, my human design. Oh yeah, no, you're fine. That I know. There, no need to apologize. There's a bunch of different variations, but yes, Jenna Zoe is the one. Hello, hello. Jenna Zoe is the one who has that, who made the My Human Design app. And she was actually my entry point to human design as well. So I did a training with her, and then I'm a 1-3, so I learned very quickly, and I actually she couldn't put the trainings out fast enough. Frankly, I think she's good for beginners, but yes, and I love it for that exact reason. It's like a better version of CoStar, in my not so humble opinion. Although it's a little different because it's not astrology, but obviously with human design. But I'm a little bit of a purist, so I had to go back to the source and went to the International School of Human Design. So, hi Marie, welcome. Oh, hi King Piscean, how are you? Likewise. I love it though. That's not to yuck anyone's yum. I'm like, oh, like I like to know where everyone's kind of from, what their origin story and foundation is for human design. So, but nice to have you here. I'm a 1-4. Learning quickly is part of that. Yes, because you're like, I need to know everything yesterday. As a 1, I just made a post because I'm doing an Astrology Human Design Advent calendar in Patreon. So I'm doing a post a day. And so the 1 line in us, like how we present, hi JC, welcome, is basically the investigator. So we like to investigate and get all the information. We don't like to be caught with our pants down. And whenever we have a question about something, we know where to look, which is a really good skill to have for anyone that has a 1 line to like learn that. It's good for anyone, but especially as 1 lines, we are like the resource redistributors, and literally from like book resources, app resources, things along those lines. So that way, if we don't have an answer, hi Tiara, if we don't have an answer in that very moment, we know where to look. So serious to the period. Hi Brenna. That's so Tiara though. Hello, how are you? Yes, I am here. I have arrived. But it's nice to see you. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I'm getting all my candle wick set up. But yeah, and with the 4th line, no, I can't help myself, I'm sorry. With the 4th line, it's like my Pisces in me is like the like little, Pisces are really good, and Pisces placements are really good at like capturing the energy right away, because we've lived kind of all like 9 lives, right? So I know it's like, I think because like I am like the millennial that's like grew up using the exclamation points because we didn't learn how to we didn't know how to transfer emotion properly, like over text message. So it's like hyper, I had to like, as I've grown in the last like 5 years, like for certain things, or like depends on my level of professionalism that's required, like toning down the exclamation points too. So I have the opposite problem, which is good, right? Like we need all types to make the world go round. But it does bring a calming presence too. Yay, that's great. Oh my gosh, now that having you. Oh, that's awesome, Ro. I'm excited for you. Hi, Heather. Welcome. That's incredible. Yes, I'm excited because now you can work it through your human design too. And especially because of the training I just posted, that's literally going to be perfect. Yes, very particular. Yes, exactly. You're like, have you earned the exclamation point? I will never say LOL unless I'm actually laughing out loud, which is never, because you can never make me laugh that hard. Yes, that's awesome, Ro. I love that. But yeah, I was going to say too, King Piscean, for us Pisces, like we're also really good at like, yes, capturing the energy and like having our moments of being a Capricorn or being an Aquarius, but also like describing energies or people, places, and things as like an inanimate object. And not to be like rude, but like sometimes it can be rude if we use it that way. You definitely can. It's like the Eric Mays, like when they go low, I go lower. Definitely been guilty of that in my past, in my not so proud moments, but yeah, I think of it because there's if you're in like the tri-state area, you probably know of it more, but the podcast, The Basement Yard, and the kid, I say kid, but we're the same age, one of the guys on there whose name is Joey, is a Pisces, and he does that, like, I've seen like clips of the podcast, I haven't watched it all the way through, but he's really good at, thank you, Ro, at, describing people as inanimate objects, which is really funny. So I always like appreciate that type of communication. I'm in an Aries 3rd house too, so it also tracks. Which is funny though, because being an Aquarius rising, sometimes like if you think about the usual expression of like an Aries 3rd house, for example, and it's like, I want a message yesterday. I am not the person, hi Jasmine, welcome. I am not a texter. I'm like, I'd rather just, which I guess could kind of reflect as that, like, I can't be bothered with the semantics, like, just tell me what you need. Like, if someone says hi, and they just say hi to me, I'm like, you know I don't text, like, what do you want? Like, and it's, I don't mean it in a mean way, but I'm like, I know that this is going somewhere, and, like, you need to know something, so just let me know. But I'm like, why do we have to pretend like I don't do energy reading for a living? Like, I know what we're doing here, which is always funny. But I appreciate, like, giving and receiving that transparency, which is an important value of mine, too. What was I going to say? Oh, but the 4 line that I also wanted to get back to with the profile lines is that it takes a while for you guys to trust people, like especially when they come into your inner circle. If you have a 4 in your profile in Human Design, even though you're very warm actually up front, and I can relate to that in different ways. Like, there's warmth does not equate to comfort and familiarity. Yes, social, exactly. It's like, I'm very warm and I can be kind to you, but like I can be kind to people as a 4 line that I don't actually like. It reminds me a lot of Libra placements if I had to put like the 4 line in an archetype. And there's that creator that she's also a Pisces rising. I want to say her she's an astrologer on here. It's like blue, her name was like Blue Opal or Topaz or something like that. And I just heard her do a video about Libra, and something that I thought was really interesting that I never thought about before that she said was that Libra is the only sign of the zodiac that's represented by an object that isn't living in the scales, versus like Pisces are fish, like Aquarius is the water bear, like they're like living organisms. Hi Jerica. Oh, there you go. Welcome, Jasmine. Hello, beautiful Libra. But yeah, so it's really interesting because you're able to weigh things, and that's why people, it's funny because what I've heard often, and I've said this too, is that Libras are what people think Scorpios are. You just don't know that they've stung you until like after they've been like, oh, I've weighed you, like you're done, which I appreciate because I have a very, Libra moon, there you go, yes. You're like, can cosplay emotion, Heather, but it's like, are you really actually emotionally detached? And I think like, even though you feel that, right, like you're able to play the role really easily because it's kind of like the Tin Man, like there's no actual heart in there. Not to say that you're not actually emotional, but like we definitely can see that. Yeah, there you go. Oh my God, so you know it well, up close and personal. But I can appreciate that because it's also an air sign. So hi Chelsea, also an air sign. So like as an Aquarius rising Mars and Mercury, I can feel that like with my Libra placements and a couple of like my one of my closest childhood friends will go like in and out for a while. Hi Megan, how are you? In and out for a while, like of communication. And my friendships, it's like waves. Like I always feel that way. And the Libras are like the heavy air sign dominant folks are usually the ones that last the longest for me because it has that like longevity in my personal life. So yes, exactly. It's like, hello, how are you? Okay, like have we exchanged the information? Okay, now we can move on. That kind of energy. So I appreciate that. It's like, it bodes well for us. Megan and I were talking, and it's so funny because Megan and I are both Aquarius risings, and we were talking in Patreon, and in Human Design, each of the 12 signs of the zodiac can be broken down into is broken down into 6 further categories known as gates. So if you aren't familiar with Human Design, just to give like the kind of crash course or a refresher. And so what it also comes down to is the minute marks. Yeah, exactly. Is the minute marks of, and that's how, like, to be fair too, Megan, like for street cred and extra like praise on you for that is like the people that I know that truly are going to be successful is like they go in for the information, they get what they need, and then they go and apply it. And that doesn't mean that you have to, like, when I'm teaching somebody as like a 1-3, like it's the teacher archetype, it's like when a teacher teaches you in a classroom for the 45 minutes that you're in that session, unless you really need extra help and it like I want you to pass the test and it's like really needed, like most students are not even going to the teacher isn't going into the student's home and sitting there and doing their homework with them, right? So it's like somebody who like really enjoys like the scholastic educational environment or like is going to go far in application of the information and actually like applying it are the people like you who are like, I go in, I get the info, I go and apply it out into the real world. And then what happens is that, and I remember having this thought too in my early 20s and being like, oh my gosh, but like once I learn anything like that, like I learn everything about, let's say like human design. Jarek, I see you for 8 o'clock. Thank you. Once I learn everything I need to know, like then I'll just know everything. And I'm like, and I remember it's like I had to say it out loud and I was laughing at myself because I was like, I was humbled. I like humbled myself on my couch very quickly in my apartment. And I was like, wait, but like then I'll just go learn something else. Like, why am I afraid about knowing everything there is to know about, say, like human design and astrology? And even now, 10 years later, I'm still learning something new about astrology, or a better, like more efficient way to approach it. This conversation actually really applies to having a Capricorn moon. Or I have a client whose daughter has a Capricorn moon that's also in our Patreon crew. And she was saying, like, I see that my daughter has a Capricorn moon, and I'm so afraid that like that means I'm gonna like mess her up. And I'm like, but the old generation of Capricorn moons, yes, there you go, are the folks. And oh yes, Heather's the Cancer sun. I love that. Wait, Cancer moon, Libra, rising Scorpio. Oh wait, sorry, sun is in Cancer, moon is in Libra, rising is Scorpio with 8 channels. Oh, that's awesome. Are you all defined? Yes, exactly, Megan. But I said the old Capricorn moon energy where like parents acted, a lot of parents, it was just like the Gen X or boomer generation was like, you just had kids because that's what everyone else did. Whereas like now it's like things may be hard emotionally for her, but she'll have a mom that is like aware of these things to actually have a conversation. So we don't actually know what the full implication or extent of like a millennial or Gen Alpha, like younger child iteration of a Capricorn moon is going to look like, because it hasn't existed yet. So it's every generation with the emphasis for all of us collectively, especially as we go into the year of the horse next year, which is about like collective momentum, Pluto and Aquarius, like all the different disciplines sharing the same info. It's about like, oh, okay, we've learned, we're doing differently with our children, and now how is the explanation of a Capricorn moon going to kind of change in its kaleidoscope? All the same stuff is there, but like what is going to be the true like Saturnian hard? And maybe that means like supporting your child through their own longevity, because Saturn is a elongator, right? It's like people who are Saturn ruled. Like I look better now at 31 than I did 20 years ago, or well, 20 years ago. Hi, Deanna, how are you? Did you hear my Capricorn moon story? I was talking about you. But not having the iteration, right? It's an elongator. So it's like, maybe it's like for you, Deanna, you're helping her walk through her Capricorn moon process, and you'll be able to be there for her emotionally. And I think that's going to be a hard thing for going into like for us being self-aware. Like I kind of think of this like when I get to the point of motherhood, like it's going to be hard for me to not intervene, because I do know a lot about this stuff, and like kind of watching it play out, because I also don't want to. It's like a parent that's a therapist. Like you don't want your parent, you never want your parents to come and be like, okay, so tell me how you feel about that. So like I have the astrological version of that that will play out. Oh no, 3 not defined, but single definition. Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Do you have any stelliums in your chart too, or your natal chart? If I have a Capricorn moon, Neptune, NCL in the 10th house, how does that play out? So Capricorn being ruled by Saturn. What's your Saturn placement as well? Because I would also look to that to give us some more context clues. But it just being hard for you to find immediate security. The only way when you have Saturn in, Aries, okay. Saturn in the 10th house is to learn that like low and slow and time in the saddle is what happens. I also feel like with Saturn, your ruler of your 10th being in the 12th, it's a lot of like spirituality, dream decoding, like doing a lot of like the watery, like kind of kooky rituals, whether or not somebody, if you have a Saturn 10th house or Saturn in the 10th house, you can't outsmart. There's no get rich quick schemes, which is fucking annoying. Because if you have an Aries Saturn, you're also like, but I wanted to learn the lesson now. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's like an oxymoron. Like, what do you mean I have to wait? Like, but I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it, I can touch it, I can lick it. But it's like, you need time, unfortunately. I'm gonna bring up your natal chart, Jerica. So we're gonna do a little switcheroo here. So Ro, if you go in our community chat, where I drop like when I'm live and everything like that, the link is always there. So it's really the same one. I just post the same one again and again. For us, I used to have 2 separate links, one for YouTube Live and one for TikTok Live. But since I dual stream now on both platforms at the same time, you can just use the one link to sign up. So it's the same one every time. Even though I post the same one, I don't change it. Jerica, do you know your birth time? And Megan, I see you right after too. Yes? Yeah, absolutely. I know. Listen, I have Saturn in the second. It's the same. I wish I could. It's not that you can't make spurts of money. Thank you. But it's that like you have to, every time you get paid, you have to invest it into something when it's in your 10th. Like how is it going to play out? Because the 10th isn't just like career and I'm seen and I'm beautiful and I'm sexy. It's like when you have placements there, you can create like illusions of who you are. Neptune in the 10th. Yeah, okay, Neptune in the 10th for a couple of you. But like, how do you save a piece of that? So it's like, if you get $100 session booked, where does $25 of that go for long term? And don't even think about it. Don't even think about, I have 100 and I want to like do something crazy with it. It's like, I only have 75, or I have 75 that I get to work with. Watching your languaging there too, especially with the new moon, full moon in Gemini, and saying like, how am I going to make this 75 work really well for me? And that's not like a sexy, fun thing to say, but it is true. But for beautiful Jerica, before I pivot over to Megan here, that is paid for the next 10 minutes of my time, let me look at our timestamp here. So I see 28 minutes and 50 seconds. So what is the aligned next step for my career that will bring me stability, fulfillment, and momentum right now? So my first question to you, because it'll help me to get a little bit more specific, is did you, with that job that we were talking about last time with Gary V, thank you, Heather, did you end up getting that gig, or is that something that is in the works, or like what is kind of going on in that department? Thank you, Megan. Okay, yes. Well, listen, if you're not trying, you got to be in it to win it. So it's just one thing, but that'll also help me kind of like, okay, now we know that door is closed for now. It just pivots us to say like, where do we actually want to be going instead? So yeah, it was funny because when you, I have no prospects. That's like the line from Little Women, Keira Knightley, or Pride and Prejudice. It's the no prospects. But when we're looking at, let me see full moon in Gemini for you, or what's kind of being activated. Your 9th house. So I would also take some time to look at like, where can you travel mentally or personally a little bit outside of the sphere of influence of what you thought would be appropriate? Like, what is helpful or a helpful place for you to go that's a little bit like different or unique? You also, your chart ruler is Venus, and Venus is also in the 12th house for you in Virgo. So a lot of the things, retrograde naturally doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. However, 11th house in Placidus. So it is a little bit about like, how can you value organization in any capacity? It was funny because I was just reading for somebody last week that had similar placements, and really turning up the dial on your ability to be an organized creative. That's a very rare intersection of interest to have, and it is this well sought after one. So anything, even I know I've talked to you about this before, but creative management or anything where you can be like a creative director, creative projects of any kind of that capacity is also really helpful. You also have a Cancer MC, Leo, 10th house in Placidus with Chiron there. So it can be a little bit of like, I wonder if there's also some shyness in your voice, or if you found it a little hard to be able to communicate effectively, which can maybe, like, you're maybe hyper fixating it for a while. Oh, I love that. Yes. So where can you go back? Because the full moons are also times of reflection, right? So if we go back and look at, from this full moon, what was happening when the new moon was in Gemini 6 months ago, so it would have been in about May. What was happening, or what were you working on during that time that you liked? When you go back and you reflect, especially this time of year, last year, month of the year is all about reflection. How can you go back and kind of look at what would be a good use of your skills? Now it's December, so unless you are in an industry or you're applying for a job where like they desperately needed like a director or film crew or like whatever it is, like yesterday, it is a slower time. Things tend to pick up a little bit more come like mid-January, once everyone's kind of like over the New Year's blues in some capacity, and they have to hit the ground running. So there you go, Megan, yes. So really being able to hit the ground running is important for you, Jerica, or thinking about that. what was happening 6 months ago, so you can feel like you can hit the ground running moving forward. But when you allow yourself the holiday, I would say like the next like month and a half, realistically, timeline wise, is also going to be important to give yourself some of that low and flow. Slow and steady flow and flow. So when we're talking about momentum, it's like you are in charge of as much urgency as you want to create for yourself. Just know that when you're going in this direction, it's kind of, what I was saying a little bit just before, probably when you were signing up, that it's a slow and steady wins the race, especially because right now is the holiday season. So more people are preoccupied with that. That's what I was saying to a lot of people today, that or the last live, that when we're looking to launch a new business or do something this time of year, unless you create a good argument for a sense of urgency, it isn't really going to happen. And you also can't just twist anyone else's arm to be like, hire me yesterday, unless you plead a good case and market yourself effectively. So when we're looking at that, and when I'm looking at a combination of your placements or also being in the creative industry, it's like the creative industry is all about like, it really is smoke and mirrors, which includes your resume and how you apply for positions like that. I think the best ways to kind of look at the industry now being like the end of the year into the beginning of the new year, is doing like temporary positions or jobs and stints, and also really deciding for yourself, A or B, black and white, like where do I really want to go? Do I want to be self-employed, and is that the heart I'm choosing, or am I choosing the heart of being in an industry or like working with people with some sort of consistency that takes me in another direction? So first, sitting down with yourself and saying like, okay, when I'm talking about what makes me feel like I have like a healthy fire lit under my ass, is it that I want to be able to choose going in the direction of starting my own business and getting really clear on what that looks like for the next month and a half? Or is it going in the direction of like, okay, I do want to apply for other jobs? Because no prospects doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but also like getting really serious. If something's not working and you're not as excited about it, it could also be an indicator that something else bigger really needs to happen. Also, for your placements, 8th and 9th house being in Gemini, it's a little bit of an overlap in your Placidus chart. We're also looking at like not telling people things before they happen. Like really taking the time to pick and choose, like if you have something big in the works, like because it's not that other people can take away something from you that's truly meant for you. I think a lot of people who frankly like the excuse of not getting what they want like to believe that for long term, but it's always like the rejection really is redirection for where you're gonna go. But it just will help you to have a clear headspace for just being healthily obsessed and focused. Focus is what gives you momentum. So when you're able to focus on understanding what you're truly going for, that's how you can kind of hit the ground running in a little bit more of that better way, especially because your Venus and Mars is in Virgo. It's like you like a good outline, you like a good task list. So it's like starting from the bottom, when you get that idea of like, okay, I'm going to go in the direction of being self-employed, or I'm going to go in the direction of applying for more companies. What does that plan of attack look like? And then every day, especially for your Virgo, it could be a little hard because of the 12th or 11th house. I would also say, because in Placidus, since your Mars is in your 11th, like if you go out and you're like, okay, I'm gonna drive to the coffee shop, or I'm gonna put on like a body double video so that I can work. I do this like almost every afternoon. I'll be doing some sort of like body doubling on YouTube during the day. I don't have my recording for today because my app crashed on me, which makes my Virgo eye, like Chiron eye twitch, but having a body double or being like, okay, I'm gonna go to the coffee shop. When I finish this iced tea, this matcha, whatever, then I'm gonna close the laptop and go on and do other things. A lot of your placements also do really well when you are well-rounded. And so it's having a set aside time and keeping that momentum and keeping that promise to yourself that like, I'm going to go as hard and as I can on creating my business, and learning how to be like really efficient and think critically is also what your Capricorn moon also loves, and having that reward there too, with like being consistent or creating emotional stability for yourself. Because what happens when we allow ourselves to get kind of like pulled all over the place by the emotions of jobs, SZV. Oh, that's for my mentorship. Never mind. That's for Friday. Not tonight. But that's also going to be very helpful for you. So coming up with a routine and a schedule is the first thing that's going to build momentum. Now, also, again, I would say, where are you allowing yourself to kind of look at the industry and say, like, where are there creative projects that work well? Are you even open to traveling? there's also a lot of that energy of the full moon happening in your 9th house, right? Where it's like, where can I travel? Atlanta is a huge film scene. Maybe you're like, fuck it, like this is the time for me to be able to go and do something. I didn't get this isn't locking me down to New York. What also exists outside the prospects of being here? I think Bayonne is making, or also already has, I know Hoboken for sure, they're doing a lot of filming, at least in that corner of the world. But I would look at Atlanta. I think it's a much more civilized industry for film right now, if I had to say so myself. And it also allows for a little bit more camaraderie. I also would look at casting sites. Yeah, okay, so then you know that. How about LA or California? Because now we can check things off the list. Because if you know what you don't want, that's actually a lot more helpful than people give it credit for, because you know where not to go. But also being in film, it will limit the possibilities of like, where is there a bigger scene? But maybe you want to be, a little bit more of a big fish in a small pond. So then we know New York and Brooklyn for sure. Okay, yeah. So you're like freshly transplanted. But I would also, since we know that, right? You have the radius of New York and New Jersey, but also where are you willing to go to? Canada's also another option. They also do a lot of filming out, I think it's called the Sunshine Coast. There's really no middle Canada, but I would also look at maybe another country. That is the other opportunities. But you have to be realistic, especially when Mars is in the 12th house, about like, okay, I know what I don't want, but instead of coming at that with like resentment or just like irritation or feeling like uncomfortable in your own skin, you have to think of the reality of like, the momentum only stays when you can see achievement happening. And if you're setting yourself up for failure by saying like, I'm not willing to, I know that I'm at least willing to go in these areas, then I can look at and start to be more serious about like Long Island City is also an opportunity. But again, a lot of projects are going to be on hold from now until the beginning of the year. So, in the last like 30 seconds or so that I have you, a lot of that stability, fulfillment, momentum is going to come when you get serious about sticking to an action plan. And instead of being like, just like uncomfortable and be like, oh, I'm just so annoyed that like these things didn't work out. It's like, okay, clearing the slate clean. I need to get serious. I know when I think of the reality of this time of year, it's that people are busy and caught up with the holidays for good or bad. Hi, Mo. For good or bad, right? Puts people on emotional roller coaster, including ourselves. We're not immune to that. And then saying, okay, Brooklyn Navy Yard is a place that they're also doing filming. I know because I was also in the industry peripherally in some capacity, right? So Brooklyn Navy Yard, Long Island City, Queens. Maybe there's some alternative things happening up in the Bronx. Looking at other venues, say like the New York Botanical Garden, and seeing if they need a videographer. Upwork and Fiverr. I'm always going to recommend that for getting a little quick cash influx, more so Upwork than Fiverr. I find more responsive to gig jobs, to be able to start to just give yourself some more data of like, okay, where do I like to work? Maybe I don't want to commit to 6 months in Brooklyn or an unforeseeable ending in Brooklyn working on a project there, but rather that I can go ahead and say, you know what, like I'm only here on this gig for 4 months, but in that 4 months, the catch-22 is also being diligent about thinking about, okay, I know that I got this for 4 months, but what's a little bit next on the horizon? Also Aquarius placements, like myself, like Megan, a few of us, that's where we kind of come in and help you guys to say, okay, don't forget about what's just on the other side of it and wait until it's too late when there isn't anything else lined up, which, to be in fairness to you isn't always your fault, right? It is like the nature of the beast, but the arts and music industry is not one that we can be in, like if we don't like some sort of change or instability or fighting it in some way. It's just the nature of the beast. And I wish I had another answer for you, but that's why I also do not work there full time and left the industry for me personally. So that's not to say that it's not going to work out for you, but in, so you can create a little bit more of that grounding for yourself, but give yourself the grace of the next month and a half if you can. Hi, little Libra. Hi, Nicole. Thank you. To give yourself the next month and a half to come up with an actual action plan and asking yourself those harder questions that I pose. And again, I'll send you the recording so you can reflect back on them of like, where do I want to go? Where am I circling the areas of the world that feel a little bit more expansive? We crossed off 2 major areas of the world when it does come to film and those sorts of things. And then maybe like even assisting for somebody or being an executive assistant temporarily to just rub some shoulders with people that are in some important rooms that allow you to kind of like not give a fuck about the job totally. It's not like your heart and soul is into admin assisting or anything like that, to be able to pivot forward and to do something else that feels a little bit more aligned. But now you have the people that can give you the right invitations to do so. So thank you for that. I appreciate you, Jerica. I'm excited for you. It's a matter of if, not when. Or when, not if. I always believe that. And so being able to just ground in that and know that like your time is coming, just being willing to make the list and check it twice and really not be afraid to go after it and give yourself the organization that you deserve to make it happen. So thank you. I'm going to pivot over to Megan. Thank you for your patience in this matter. It's a beautiful Megan now. And I love that, Megan, that you started off, and Ro, okay, yes, I see you, Ro. Your business officially 6 months ago, which is so cool at the new moon in Gemini. Gate 13, yeah, we were talking about my rising. Any channel message is always welcome. I love that. So with Gate 13 is the gate of the listener. I will say that our rising sign or sun sign gate placements are usually the hardest ones to fall into. It's also like Gate 13 is like the gate of selective hearing. Like, especially as a manifestor, when we combine it in that way. Oh, yes, your Gemini is your moon. Yes, absolutely. It's all when we go into the nitty gritty and we look back out again, we realized how like they're all little micro ways to explain like other areas of our chart. And so Gate 13 with the gate of the listener is really knowing that like actually taking the time low and slow to listen, not to just what you think is being said, but like to understand the larger, bigger picture energetics. As a manifestor, you can forget how confrontational your energy comes off. And usually it's like an energy of like, whoa, like I didn't expect to be that intense, but like this is just how my intensity came across, because you can't really be even though you know you have to learn and listen, you like there's part of you that resists any sense of like a improper fear of being controlled in some way. And you forget that like part of being a leader is having a community in different parts of the world. Oh, thank you so much. Yay, thank you. The realionaire. I love that. Thank you. I'm a little bit over. So if you signed up for 8:20, I'm like 5 minutes over. Or I actually didn't see your notification come through. So if you want to try again to sign up, it didn't process fully. Usually it's because people don't give enough time for it to process, but I only have Ro that signed up. There may be a pending charge on your card, but it won't charge you. It won't officially charge you twice. You just need to give it probably to like Monday the latest for it to clear. So if you want to sign up again, you can do that there. But Megan, like taking the time to be able to like have a little bit more patience. And it's hard because when you're also working and you're managing a business and you have a life and you have a family and you have children, happy birthday to your daughter. It does create a little bit of that like feeling pulled. So like it's the preemptively kind of shutting things down or believing that like the information is wrong before you kind of think about it in a bigger context for what is actually being said or what the true learning lesson is. So if you ever come up and you're listening to something, it also can give the appearance, ironically, that like if you're not really present and been having that like sense of friction or headbutting with other people, it can be like people don't actually believe that you're listening to them. And whenever, especially so because we're talking about now 6 months into your business and the full moon in Gemini, being a Gemini moon and all of those sorts of things. Yeah, being grounded is so important. I don't know if that, yeah. Grounding is important as like a first step. And I feel like you've already come to grounding. So like what's the kind of like second step to really listening to what's being said? I think also for your placements and like starting to grow your business is really doing things like I love that you did a complimentary mediumship reading, because the one-on-one is how you're going to get your reps in, and how every single interaction with one person is a micro that tends to the macro a lot more efficiently. And also being someone that like you have a realm of or sphere of influence in your business as a Gate 13 person to really understand. Yes, that's great. Like that'll help you to understand like what did you like about the process of what you did when you, thank you, Ro, what you did when you were able to have a one-on-one session, like the beginning, middle, and end, like what was the whole kind of like nurture sequence. And also understanding as a manifestor, there's really not going to be much of one, and that's okay. Like for me, it's like I have a whole timeline sheet and people sign up and they get the recording. That's a nurture sequence. That's what works really well with my Pisces. And my gate 5 really likes that flow, but it took time for me to learn in those one-on-one sessions. Hi, Carla. How am I really listening to people? And what is it that they really want from me? Especially as a manifestor, it's so hard. There's one person who goes on live, and I can't stay in their lives very long. There's another person who does human design that's a manifestor, and they complain a lot about what isn't working. And every time somebody tries to help them and tell them, hey, I think you should look at it this way. Hi, Tammy. They immediately shut down and stop listening because they think that they know better. But the issue is they're so dysregulated that they don't give themselves the opportunity to be open to people who genuinely want to help them. And just because somebody can say something and it rubs you the wrong way, which I feel like you've outgrown this like a lot, Megan. Thank you so much, Carla. It's a matter of like, really understanding, like, even if it makes me uncomfortable, there's still data here in the fact that it made me uncomfortable. So in this moment of like, okay, I didn't really like that it went this way. And being uncomfortable doesn't have to be something so dramatic. You know, it could be like, I didn't like that the person that did the complimentary mediumship reading with me, they sat for me and they just kind of didn't like say something. It didn't on my end, the Realionaire. I have the notifications. I know it says that it comes up, but it's like, you know, when you get charged in your credit card and it says pending, it'll take it out temporarily, but it doesn't actually process. So I have no data that's filled out. And I have no way that there's only a notification I get via email that says it. So that's why I say, take your time. That's why I create this organization for a reason. Cause I have there's nothing that I could do. My hands are now tied with the bank. So that's why I use Stripe as a payment processor. So it's only pending in your account, but it never processes. If it processes fully, I get an email. So you can sign up if you want to again and try the $8. I keep it affordable for a reason. But if it's too complicated and too much, I understand and we can move forward. Yeah, exactly. You probably do. I say that like just because it's like that's what you and I were talking about as Aquarius rising placements, is that I only have a bandwidth so much for complaining about problems that people have gotten themselves into. So if I have somebody that like keeps booking readings with me about like the same thing over and over again, I'm gonna eventually have told people before that I'm sorry, I'm not gonna read for you anymore because it's boring for me, it's boring for you. I don't wanna get training the universe to teach me or send me people that like to stay stuck in their problems. If I wanted to do that, I would have gone into certain variations of the mental health profession, or I would just be a life coach. At that point, that's kind of like an ecosystem that certain life coaches keep people in. And frankly, that they have the patience for, right? Like I'm not somebody who has the patience for sitting in a session from one Aquarius rising to another and not see some sort of change happening. Now, as a manifestor and a gate 13 rising, Aquarius rising manifestor, exactly. It's like having that built in. Also, you're really just there to understand that you're sharing information with people. So if a manifestor is teaching anything, let's see, I'll refresh and see if it went through. You know what I'm wondering? Are you buying the $10 one? Because it's not, sorry, Megan. Because what happens is sometimes people click the first link, they don't read what they're buying, and they will buy the audio sometimes. Yeah, so that says very specifically it's the audio guide. So what you're supposed to be clicking on when you read the actual like description is it says specifically TikTok live reading sign up. So I will refund you the audio. If you want to book the right one, you can book that. But you're booking the wrong session because it says audio guide and not TikTok live mini reading sign up. So when we're going through that, Megan, right? This is just me in real time. I'm not a very patient person, if you couldn't tell. So what happens, unfortunately, is then these types of things happen. Hi, MJ. And I feel bad because now Megan's reading gets interrupted because we need to be able to read what we're signing up for. Pause, please. Okay, it says 5 to 10 business days and then it will refund you. Okay, but yes, so when you're informing, right, informing is important. Let people know it's clear what they're signing up for. It can look really good for you to be in sessions with other people, or you may like that idea, but what I like about it being psychic mediumship versus you informing somebody about like a system or something along those lines, it's more so understanding that you're really, and what happens when people go on TikTok live, right, and they're in that kind of environment of teaching, is like, as a manifestor, you're not really interested in getting feedback from other people. This is the information that I am looking to provide for you as a psychic medium. I'm not really looking for your feedback, and that's okay, but you have to know that, like, if somebody else is a manifestor, with this person that I'm using as an example, is going to complain a lot publicly about like what there isn't working, and you're gonna waste my time in a session, right? Like talking about what isn't working as a manifestor, it needs to be able to have a little bit of that, the reciprocity has to be there. You're either open or you're not, and most manifestors are not open, and that's okay, but we just need to know how to go about like actually creating that structure of like knowing what you're in it for as a manifestor. You're not really looking for other people to question you in a lot of ways, but rather be like, this is the data. Let me make sure, especially for psychic mediumship, there's a lot of people that like to do a lot of chargebacks when they don't get the reading that they want. And so that building up, like in your sessions, I would really take the time to be able to look at what does that actually look like for you? What are the kind of outlines that you have? Like, when you sign up for me, like when you book with me, especially for longer sessions, it's non-refundable. I don't have patience, clearly, to deal with the back and forth of scheduling, not scheduling. If you are over the age of 18, you're an adult that could read, eyeball, simple, it's clear, effective, we do it in that way, right? Because I'm not in corporate, because I didn't want to have to go back and forth and work in customer service for that reason. So for you, for your business, Megan, right, as one Aquarius rising to another, I say that those are the little things that like really chip away at our energy over time, because we do provide a lot for a lot of people. Hi, Finn. So because we put in that much effort, it's like I expect that at the bare minimum, somebody else is meeting me in return. So remember that in your business, especially as a Gemini moon, Aquarius rising, your beautiful placements, Aquarius sun, you have a lot to offer a lot of people, so don't let them take advantage of you just because you're doing a service that is about making them feel good. You can be a person that does a service that makes people feel good and helps them, but making people feel good is also about telling them the truth. And so if there's people who like to stay stuck in, you make me feel good because you're a yes person, they're not going to be the right people for you. So just keep an eye out for that, and just make sure that you have the ability to kind of relax in that and know that like this is good, important data and good time for that. Yeah, exactly. Me too. Let me see. Okay. Yay, Tara. Okay, perfect. I have Tara, and then I have Trisha. Maybe that Trisha is the one that you were the one that was trying to book back and forth. And then Ro, I have after that. So yeah. Yeah, there's a couple. Okay, perfect. Yes, there we go. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, Finn, I appreciate that. Listen, I mean, I'm going to be a lot less forgiving in 2026. That's for sure. There are just too many with my Pisces at the end of my Saturn return. It's literally so exhausting. I help within a certain boundaries, and then I'm like, yeah, I gotta go. This is enough. There we go. Okay. Yes, I know your birthday's coming up. I was just thinking of your birthday today because I was writing the Gate 26 outline, Tara. Let's see. Yeah, oh, I love that. Yes, I think, you're welcome, Megan. I'll send you the recording so you have it. Yes, I love that. Let me know if you still have the link for the, whatchamacallit, the discounted one vendor to another. So yeah, Gate 5 is so, okay, great. Yes, I'm excited. Happy early birthday. Oh, actually, let me do this for Tara Sharp because it's on my... move my desktop around. Okay, here we go. I mean, it also helps because you're a beautiful manifestor too. So a lot of what I was saying to Megan also applies to you here. Let me show if I do this. Here for now, just so we can get started. So I have your chart pulled up to the well, I'll put to the left hand side here. Let me write down the minute marker for you. We're at 58 minutes and 25 seconds for Tara. So also being a manifestor, yeah. Oh, Cancer Moon for a while. There you go. Yes, I'll see you later. I know, and all of the 5 content. So where is your gate 5? Oh, in the 5th line. Yes, there we go. So I want to tune into that a little bit because that's also going to be very helpful, especially because like I said, for my placements too, like also having a gate 5, learning to be okay with being inconvenient because your routine is how people get the best version of you is best, because you have to learn to be and feel like taking up space in that way is actually what keeps you healthy. What is it? Yeah. So gate 5 in the 5th line, as your Mars specifically, to remain calm is the ultimate aesthetic and thus recognize the inner meaning of being, the power to be calm and to find one's place in the flow. The detrimented aspect is joy dismissed as an illusion, waiting as a failure. So like a lot of what is hard with that too, is seeing like the waiting and calm periods of your life. And I think I said this in some capacity, that even if you just follow your gate 5, I promise that is life-changing, especially for both of you, your 2 gate 5 folks also that are manifestors. So it's like even more of a specific Sagittarius placement in a more, what's it called? Like your 9 to 10% of a population. Yes, 9 to 10% of the population as manifestors. So you already have, no, Trisha. So in... I'm sorry. I'm very exhausted already. So when you book, you got a receipt that told you the time that you booked for. You went into the calendar and you clicked on the time. So it's currently 8:32 Eastern Standard Time. And your time is 8:40. So it's 8:32 right now. This is for Tara. So just so we don't get distracted, I want to be able to do this as respectfully as possible to people, because everyone has paid me for the same 10 minutes. I don't want to get interrupted doing it, just out of respect. So, and then I will be on to you, and I will send you the recording so you can watch it back again and again and be able to digest the information. But for you, Tara, also being a Sagittarius and having this full moon opposite your sun in some capacity, it's a lot of reflection this time of year always, because the full moon is always in December, to be able to reflect back on like, what do you want for the year ahead? How do you want to be able to think about like what you didn't even think that you were going to get as far as you are now for probably a good chunk of your life. So already coming to this spot, it is an opportunity to say, when I say that I'm going to do something, how can I really make sure, especially as a gate 26 person, that I don't break the promises to myself that I really want to keep? Because that does something to our spirit, psychologically, spiritually, energetically, emotionally, and even the most littlest of things, where it's like, I want to do laundry. I want to go ahead and do, other whatever, and then you get up and you don't do it. And those little things, especially gate 26, Sagittarius, gate 5 person, do chip away at like our ability to keep the larger promises to ourselves, to be able to say, after I put this dish in the sink. I want to be able to pursue something different. And yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think now, since you can have that self-reflection, how can you go ahead and say like, okay, where is it that I'm going to go from here? How can I be able to move forward in a way that actually can push the boundaries of where I felt were possible? I think that there is part, if I be so bold in saying, part of you that can play a little bit small, where you can keep going a little bit bigger and say like, where is it that I can healthily I'm just stretching. I'm not going up to the squat rack and trying to bench 250 pounds, but maybe I actually just want to start to admit to myself that I actually want to be able to lift weights in general. And that actually is a desire that I have. And it's not something that I have to be afraid of going after in some capacity. How can I allow myself to feel like I can healthily stretch out in a direction? Maybe I want to teach something or inform rather than teaching. Teaching requires a different level of patience, right? So like going and being able to say like, what is it that I want to actually share or do or create or explore and push that boundary a little bit further? Especially because you have gate 28 as your north node, that also, it doesn't mean that it has to be something crazy. It doesn't mean that like your version of success or what you want to push yourself towards has to be something that's like being an actress or being a billionaire or going in that way. Yeah, I know. It requires, certain things require patience, and I think assessing like no matter what we have, it can also be this, I will say too. If you have lived your life, and I know in a lot of ways you have. Yeah, exactly. I love that. A+. If you are going along, right, and you're like gate 28, fear of running out of time, I want to make sure that, you know, I have this placement too. And the reason I'm going to say this I'm mentioning this is because when you have had a lot of traumatic events or a lot of heaviness in your earlier life, it's like we're allowed to just want peace for a while. And that can mean that like if we know that we're not biting off more, than we can chew, right? And finding out what that direction is or what that looks like, how can we start to stretch in a way that feels a little bit more, a little bit more sustainable. So it's like, I know that I want more out of life, but how can I want more while also not upsetting the apple cart, right? And not adding it's funny I keep saying that, but like adding too many things onto my plate and being able to operate in that way. You know, writing a cross of rulership also with your incarnation cross can just be ruling over your own domain. Maybe it's like a lot of ways that you celebrate those parts of yourself and having that calm is also by like investing in your home a little bit more. Creating, maybe it's like you've always wanted a library in your house, so you create like a little nook that's under your staircase or in a spare bedroom that doesn't really get used, or in a little cozy corner with a small bookshelf. Like use what you got and being able to just like nurture that. I think that there can also be like a sense of guilt and feeling like we don't know what, how do I word it? Like we don't think that those things make a difference, but it is like those versions of micros that really make us be able to have a more fulfilling life. It's like, I always say that a lot of people want to be rich or be a millionaire, but they don't realize that having certain levels of wealth require maintenance in some capacity. So when you go through life and you're like, okay, I know that I want this, I know that I want to grow in this direction, like that creates its own level of maintenance, right? Having patience, for example, to do different things. So allowing yourself to grow in a direction that feels like I can sustain this, but there's always room for improvement. Not because I feel like I'm not doing enough, but because this thing or this room or this object or something needs to be venerated or can be appreciated a little bit more. And I can ground in that a little bit more to say like, you know what, like I feel like I'm stable. I feel like I've got this. This makes me appreciate what I have and I can move forward. And even in those areas, I know it sounds silly and like we think of like playing small as like you have to, again, go out and be like a millionaire, but it is like having that ability to say, I actually want to appreciate a little bit more how far I have come. And that alone is important. You know, as I always say, whenever I see gate 29, it's like, where can you be reminded that it's okay to say yes to yourself first? And there's always going to be new ways that like, or even new ways or new people that see that in your energy and try to flip it in a different direction. Yeah, exactly. I love that. You know, and again, it's like, you don't have to freak out about that, but I think it's a matter of when you appreciate that abundance, or when you have gratitude, you automatically you're living in abundance. So it's like allowing that to be nurtured in some capacity. Hold on, I have to do my little puzzle. Yeah, I feel like, hold on. So you're going to turn, let me look at your perfection here, actually. Just a few notes on that beforehand, hold on. Second house perfection year. Yeah, exactly. I love that. So also tied to money. I mean, also an opportunity to see, like, with living in abundance, like, how are we walking the walk and talking the talk about, like, where you want to even be able to be open to receiving more. Hi, Amanda, welcome. Thank you. How can that be a little bit more of a healthy growth opportunity for you to, like, say, I like this, but it's okay that I want to incorporate the allowance for more in my life in so many ways, where it's like, I have abundance, of course, but it's like, where can I stretch past, like, what I thought was possible and be able, it just feels like a lot of growth in that way. I don't say that to, like, yuck the yum of what you already have, but, like, I do think that there's an opportunity to go a little bit further past beyond, like, what you think that your threshold is, and that actually won't be something that, I think people hear that automatically, and we assume that that's, like, a moment of friction, if you will, like, I'm at the threshold and I'm going to push past it. It feels scary. It's change, but it's like incorporating change doesn't always have to be a bad thing. And I think how to roll with the punches like the rest of them, but they're not necessarily going to feel like punches, but like, like a blast of warm air that feels like comfortable as I go through and start to be on the precipice of pursuing this next thing. So I will leave you with that for now as I pivot over to Trisha here. Let me see. And then I have Ro, and then I have Amanda. So let's see. And they'll send yeah, thank you. Hi, Jenny, welcome. And I'm going to put in Trisha's chart here. Thank you. No, I totally understand. I appreciate that. Okay, so we are at the 1 hour and 10-minute mark, I'll say, for Trisha here. Okay, so Trisha's question is, I want to learn more about being a manifesting generator and how to best utilize my energy. I love this. Yeah, you have a very defined, you have every one of your channels defined. So you, like me, in Human Design, are a 1-3 manifesting generator. So we're also looking at if I show you here, here, let me do this. So you can look at your chart here. But when we're looking at your chart, right, you also have gate 5, which I was mentioning earlier. And then, yes, I know, Jenny, yes. So when we are manifesting generators, right, the key indicator that I put is that we're the multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate people who are here to do and accomplish many different things. So when we have this, what happens is that you want to make sure that when you're optimizing your energy as a manifesting generator, that you're not getting scattered in 18 different directions at one time. The first precipice to being successful in your design is to understand that you are going to have multiple irons in the fire, but there's like one thing at a time that the dial is going to be turned up on a little bit higher. So let's say that you want to be a content creator and teach online, right? And be able to do that in some capacity. When you do that, you want to just start off by picking one platform to get really comfortable on. You guys see me do this that follow me on IG and YT. I post on TikTok first. I take the same video, I put it on YT Shorts, and I put it on Instagram Reels. And because I've nurtured those platforms where even though there's cross-reference, I have different things that I post or different ways that I nurture each one of those platforms, like IG is more people that I know in person. It's a way that I can scratch the itch of creating content and being somebody that teaches online, but like it diversifies the way that I can do it sustainably. And then you start to go from there. Now, what's also interesting about being a manifesting generator is that we have defined sacrals, even though you're an emotional authority. And so having a defined sacral means you want to ask yourself A or B, black or white, yes or no questions to be able to take the time to say like, okay, do I want to work online primarily or do I want to work in person? Once you get that distilled down, especially when it comes from like utilizing your energy in a more efficient way, how do you go about that in a way that actually makes more practical, tangible sense? We were also talking about, because when we're looking at your human design and being a manifesting generator, the different gates and the activations that you have are specific coordinates that are reflected here in your natal chart. And so you are a gate 5 north node in human design. The ability to be able to use this in a good way, or the good reflection of it as it's quoted in the definitive book of human design. This is also linked on my in my link in my bio. But it's having a gift of maintaining your composure through idealizing or prioritizing tranquility and peace. So the power to be comfortable with your own rhythm comes with you being able to prioritize your peace and your well-being, and whatever you need to just like chill out and slow it down a little bit more. Especially as a Cancer moon in gate 53, it can cause like a lot of emotional strife in a lot of ways. And this full moon is also illuminating your south node. It's literally right on your south node in gate 35 in human design, which is like, if you say something, it's like really not making promises to yourself that you can keep actually, especially when you have this whole channel and gate 26, the 4426 channel. That channel is like, you literally affect your health when you keep saying yes to things out of obligation. And it's human design manifesting generator 101 to do things out of like necessity, wanting to do prioritize what you want to do, but also, and it's what happens because our point of friction earlier is the gate 51 Aries Mercury, gate 17 Aries Venus, where it's like, it's mine and I want it yesterday. It will help you to find, it's not that urgency is bad. So I don't want you to think that fire is wrong, but it's I always say with human design, I've been reading charts for 10 years, that it's the right idea, but the wrong execution. So that tenacity is good, that importance is good, but it's like, where are we tripping over and making like silly mistakes when it could go easier and have more harmony for all parties involved, when you're really clear about like why you're entering into something in the first place. Again, doing things because you want to do them rather than you feel like you should out of obligation. It's really also with your placements and the type of configuration that you have as an emotional manifesting generator. You have 2 emotional waves. So in human design, when we have an emotional authority, or whatever our authority is, there's channels which create flows of energy that connect your solar plexus to your throat and your solar plexus to your root chakra. So it's like, you also know, it's kind of like a do as I say, not as I do. Like, you may want people to jump in and you're like, okay, like do this for me yesterday. But if somebody came to you with the same energy, you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And so it's like having that understanding and like putting yourself in a position to utilize that energy in a good way, where like maybe you're in a managerial role or in a role of leadership where you can be like, you know what, I know that like I want to be in a position where like what I say goes and I operate in this way. And really with your Cancer moon placements and to utilize your energy effectively is to not take anything personal, even if it is. And that means like, don't let your emotions or a moment of friction swallow you whole, but let it be like a learning opportunity to be like, okay, I feel this way. And I'm a Scorpio moon, so like I'm very intense in that way too. I like real recognizes real in that way, where it's like, we feel that intensity. How are we transmuting that to be more effective for where we actually want the energy to go, and how we can use it more effectively, and being able to prioritize that as an emotional authority? Because your emotions as an emotional authority, your solar plexus takes the cake, and being able to prioritize that and like understand everything you can about the solar plexus will also help you to understand even more further in your own self-discovery how to understand your emotional authority, and no matter what your energy type is. So that's true across the board. You also have a lot of Libra energy. So it's like talking to 3 people whose opinions you value before making a decision is also going to be really important for you. But make sure it's like 3 people that you know what they're talking about. So let's say like you want to find or do a real job opportunity, right? Or do something like new for a career. You want to make sure that you're talking to somebody, like say it's like self-employment, somebody who like is self-employed and is actually successful at it. If your best friend works for a corporation and is in finance and doesn't know or really have like a true understanding of entrepreneurship, maybe they may mean well and want to watch out for you, but maybe it's not a person who's like actually educated in teaching you true pros and cons of the industry. So like really evaluating who you're asking is also going to save a lot of your time and energy to be able to understand that. As always, as I mentioned too earlier, gate 5 is like really understanding like the gates of like fixed routines, rhythms, and rituals. So like even if you don't really think that you have even if you don't really think that you have a routine, I promise you do. And like a preconceived notion of like how you believe the world should operate, but know that the best way that you can change the world around you to operate that way is when you honor operating that way yourself, to prioritize your own energy and well-being, and being able to say like, how can I, hi Elvis, thank you, how can I ground myself in saying like, okay, I know that there's a certain cadence or a certain flow that I appreciate. Let me be able to do this and like lead by example, because you have a lot of placements that do that. You also need, like me, a 1-3, a lot of alone time. So like I am an introvert through and through. Yes, I'm on TikTok live because I'm also a teacher as a 1-3, but like as an educator also needs to go behind the scenes and make their lesson plans. And then being able to prioritize like doing that is important. I'm just 2 minutes over, so I'm going to just be 2 minutes behind Ro and Morgan, just so you know, or Amanda, excuse me. So that's going to be important. I think a lot of like with your placements too is like having a fear of inadequacy, fear of failure. Like, am I going to be able to do this effectively? What does that look like? And understanding that like sometimes there can be like when you feel like there's some sort of like hierarchy, it can make you a little bit uncomfortable, which is normal. But it's like, okay, maybe like if I feel that there's a hierarchy, but this actually isn't really somebody that I care about nor like respect or like has any skin in the game, why am I letting them make me feel uncomfortable? Or it can be like a lot of people who have been like bigger figures or older figures in your life, like personally, that have tried to suppress you. So it's like trying to unlearn the fact that like not everybody has malicious intent in certain ways, but it's like how to reconfigure your understanding of like certain people are good to learn from, certain people are good to listen to, but I have to kind of seek them out myself and choose that. That was also a big learning opportunity for me. Also having a variation of this placement where it's like, okay, like just because you have one bad teacher doesn't mean that all your teachers are always going to be bad, and being able to look at life that way too. So, just being able to prioritize like who you're responding to, saying yes, not because like when you say yes to something, always kind of have it with an asterisk of like, I know that I'm saying yes right now and I'm really excited to say yes to this thing, but how can I actually pivot in a way that like when the day comes, you like people know that are close to you that like you may say no, can also be really helpful, especially because you have a gate 56 Mars in human design. It's a late degree Cancer, early degree Leo placement, where it's like you really are, it's like, how do I feel that day? And understanding that in terms of how it comes to setting up your schedule from an emotional level, it's like doing things more instantaneously and spontaneously is important. Last thing I'll say in the last 30 seconds is that you like need to know kind of like when your true like exit point is in any conversation. It can also be the person that kind of Irish goodbyes, and just acknowledging that within yourself and a job too, because that can also be very helpful. So allowing yourself, I have to turn up the brightness, hold on. Allowing yourself to ground in that is also going to be important. You're in a 9th house perfection year this year, and we'll be in a 10th house perfection year come April, which is really good. So any of the bones that you set now for your career will also allow you to like really flourish and reap the rewards of like, if you're going to start a business or you want to start a business, start like ASAP to really set the bones and start to get the momentum going, so that come your perfection year in 33, you have some good data to respond to and there's momentum there. So look at your Calendly receipt that I sent you. There was a confirmation of this reading, and I will respond within the next 24 hours with a link to this recording so you can watch it back again and again. But thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that. We have that there. And let me see, I have a beautiful row here. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, congratulations. That's exciting. general reading because I have a couple different directions I'm being pulled toward. Okay, yes, absolutely. So a couple different iterations of Ro. Let me put Ro's chart up on the screen here. So for you, Ro, first of all, right, to ask yourself, A or B, black or white, yes or no. What feels like when you ask yourself, should I go, like refining it down, like if it's a couple different directions, distill it towards 2. Like if you have 5 different directions that you can go, what are ones that don't really feel as exciting or as important at this moment in time? What is it that like just doesn't feel like it's that necessary, or like, yeah, this would be cool, but is this actually an opportunity that like if I have another opportunity, hi Kiana, that puts me in a better growth or opportunity for growth, that's what you want to be focusing on. Again, distilling it down for like, is this something that like I know I could do momentarily so that it gives me a little bit more money for the holidays, like maybe that's something that you can look at. But you know, really being able to say like, okay, when I distill it down, what makes me feel like I sit up in my chair a little taller, what makes me feel like I'm a little bit more excited is going to be an indicator. And what I posted on our astrology advent calendar of the day and Patreon for us today was about that micro action. Reread that again in relation to putting that into practice with this issue, or like the fork in the road that you're facing rather, because that'll be a little bit more helpful in putting it in that kind of category. Yeah, will be able to help you for sure. Hi Jose, thank you. Hello gorgeous, I hope you're feeling better too. So when we have these kinds of opportunities, right, it's like a good problem to have where like you see, hi Crystal, a good opportunity, happy almost birthday, a good opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going in these different directions, or I'm being pulled towards these different directions. Like what a beautiful place to be where I have all these opportunities to pursue in many different directions. Now, leading into the new year, right, as a beautiful Capricorn that you are, it's like, what is going to really give you a big return on your investment, and being able to like have that little bit like lower and slower pace, right? Like what, like not necessarily where it has to slow you down, Aries moon, of course, but like this is going to give me long-term sustainability. It's like, what is the, there's a quote about like something like familiar hell. It's basically like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and not getting yourself caught up in that. It's like taking the thing that feels a little bit more risky, because it actually, as a Capricorn with your placements too, like Cancer rising, it's not as risky as you think that it may be. It's just a matter of like, oh, fear of the unknown. Like, I don't really know what's happening here, but you're smart enough to know like where to find the answers. And especially for your placements too, 3-5 profile, you do have that trial and error, yes or no, like opportunity. I just realized all my fluff came off of my sweater. But a bunch of opportunity, like a bunch of moments of opportunity that you'll have to be able to say like, what's going to actually create a little bit more structure and organization for my life. And that's going to be good, genuine momentum. I want to look at your perfection year also, because you'll be 45 this year. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so 44 is a 9th house perfection year, and then 45 is also a 10th house perfection year. So having that opportunity to be like, okay, what is it that if I were to be granted my wishes, this is a great question for a 10th house perfection year. If I could snap my fingers and I were to be granted for me, yes, especially because now like no one really fucking knows. Like even me, like I have moments where I'm like, oh yeah, like I feel that too going into 2026. Like there's so many different iterations that I can go in, that I know what I do want to do and what I do want to keep consistent, which are the things that I'm doing right now. But also I've had a couple things that have presented themselves to me that I was like, oh, I didn't really think about that. I didn't know that that was an opportunity. So it really is like personally and professionally, like taking the time to be able to be like, okay, for the month of December, especially until your birthday, to be like astrologically for all of us, but also just because of the time of year, it's like, what's weird about it for our transits especially is that we are truly living in unprecedented times. And when we are living in unprecedented times, there's like this waiting for the other shoe to drop that a lot of us millennials or people who have lived like post like 9/11, like we really feel that like ever since then, like nothing really is ever guaranteed. So like how can we really take this moment in time to say, like, if I did or didn't do this thing, would I be okay with it? Which ironically, for a lot of people that also are very sensitive, can create this sense of like nihilism, where it's like, okay, then nothing matters, so like, why would I do anything at all? I might as well just enjoy the time that I have. And so that can be a really interesting place to be, where you're like, okay, I want to celebrate life and appreciate it, but also like be kind of like realistic about what it is that I want to do at the same time. So usually what happens, especially when we're manifesting generators that face this, it's like we don't have enough data to respond to yet. And also with like the gate 5 transit that we have starting today, it's a little bit of that analysis paralysis. I would give yourself like the next 6 days just to kind of marinate in it a little bit more. If there's anything that this week teaches us collectively, it's about like waiting for like 6 days and then just kind of being like, okay, I'm kind of thinking about it. It's in like somewhat of the midpoint of my mind. It's not totally the forefront. It's not totally to the back, but like, where is it that I can go that feels a little bit more sustainable, right? That I can be okay with the waiting. It's like being in child's pose in yoga and you're reaping in the rewards of the benefit of the practice, but like not letting yourself get ripped out of it where you're like, okay, then I have to go home and I have to cook dinner. It's like, just enjoy it for what it is in that temporary moment of waiting, because even in that moment of child's pose or shavasana, corpse pose, where you're laying there, you're still reaping in the rewards of everything that you've done to get to that moment in time. And so allowing that moment of like gratitude and reflection is also really important, to even allow yourself to be like, wow, I'm so grateful for everything that I have. How can I make more? People, I was talking to somebody about this, where it's like, say you have, whatever your job opportunity is or moving opportunity is for where you're moving forward. It's like, okay, I know that this job is what I'm going to be doing to be able to get more money for paying off my debt. And what I can do today, as I'm waiting for more money, is actually just put $2.50 towards my debt. And it sounds so silly, and we're like, well, why would I pay $2.50 if I can't pay, $250 or whatever it is? But like those little, a lot of what I said to Tara earlier, a lot of what this end of this year is for the beginning of the year is the micro turning into the macro. And so how you do the little things now, exactly, is how you can treat the bigger things more sustainably when they come. It's like winning the lottery, right? Like, it's yours. If the desire is on your heart, it's yours. You're going to get it no matter what, if you're persistent and consistent in pursuing that goal. But it's like, what do you do with your time in the interim, in the messy middle, as I like to call it, that allows you to train your nervous system to get to the other side in a more effective way, and being able to lean forward more in that direction. What was I going to say? I think that understanding what you want to monetize in your life versus what can also be a hobby is also important. I love to create. I love to make collages. I love to junk journal. I love to scrapbook. There was a time in my life where I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, why don't I monetize it and create an Etsy shop? Now, like, I just rather create stuff for my home or appreciate it and do that in my downtime, so that I'm able to have a little bit of a variation as a manifesting generator in what I monetize versus what I create as a hobby, and finding that balance. Like, and I think that, when we live in the late stage capitalism era and the era that we do now, it's hard not to be, I'm from New Jersey, it's hard not to do that, right? So it's like, when we're first learning our manifesting generator experience, and can be like, okay, I can see all of these possibilities, and I know I'm multi-hyphenate, I know I'm multi-passionate, but what does that actually look like when I put it into practice in an effective way? And it's like, I like scrapbooking right now, but I like scrapbooking because I have other areas of my life that I tend to in my business that are actually more effective. And then that can be what is a little bit more helpful and sustainable. So more food for thought. Yes, Deanna. More food for thought on, where you're at, how to make some decisions moving forward. Hi, Funky Little Farm. Hi, Tiffany. And, being able to go with grace in that way too. And for the next 6 days, it is just a little bit more of a waiting period. So that can feel, a little bit more stressful, or annoying, or kind of like paralyzing in that way. So you know where to find me. Obviously, you have me on Patreon if you have any questions too in the interim, or need a sounding board for some data. As I pivot over to beautiful Amanda here. And then I appreciate that. I know I was saying that earlier, where it's like, if you guys comment too much during someone's reading, it is distracting. It's kind of like, I'm a little bit like of an etiquette whore, for lack of a better way to say it, which is an oxymoron in and of itself, but it's like, because part of my reading when I do read for people is channeling. So, and I also know when people are farming for like other people to follow them. Like if you keep having, like I've had quite a few people over the course of the couple years that I've been live. Obviously, Chris, I've known you for forever, so it's different. Tiffany, for a lot of you too, but it's like, you can just tell like when somebody's like, I'm really excited about, and it's fine to be excited, but it's also like, read the room. Like if somebody's presenting, you know, in a room full of 11 people, we can hear you talking, right? So it's like, I treat this space like I would if somebody was like speaking to somebody at an event, like when we're in a theater. It's like that same type of, you know, a comment here or there is fine if it's in a group setting, obviously, but like, you know, it's just like having the little sense of like, what happened to hello, how are you? Like having some decorum is important. Because then if you're asking me 20 questions and I have to respond to it, it's like, it becomes like, it's rude. But I say all the time, the internet is like Times Square and we roll with it. So one day at a time. Okay, so beautiful, Amanda. Let me see what your question is here. So career. Okay, I love this. Hello. So for Amanda, when we're looking at career, I mean, whoa, I love this. So our full moon in Gemini is actually on top of your sun. It's the same gate as your sun. So this full moon is going to be a beautiful opportunity for you to kind of be like, have your sun sign illuminated to really say, oh, and let me get my timestamp here, 33, to really say like, okay, I have this opportunity to kind of do some reflection, self-reflection, something's being illuminated here. And what feels like the change that needs to happen in order to get to where I need to go, right? You also, like me, are a 1-3 in human design. So I will tell you a couple things when it comes to career. Working with other people in an office setting is next to damn near impossible unless you have your own office that like you are responsible. Like there's no one breathing down your neck. That was so physically painful from 1-3 to another. And especially for you as a projector, really being aware, because you, like me, we both are the right angle cross of consciousness. We have the same life purpose and incarnation cross. So having those placements, right, is also allowing yourself to say like, okay, I need separation of space. It's like truly like when we're doing any kind of spiritual work, which you're very like privy to, like if you wanted to do any kind of like psychic mediumship, like intuitive work, women's circles, like anything along those lines, that's a really great business path or opportunity for you to do, Amanda. So having that is important. You're also, the only channel that you have is the 1-8 channel. So you are like truly anything that you do, really monetizing your intellectual property. Like you are like the person that should have kind of like the like to know it, like or like to know, like the people are gonna look to you for guidance and being an inspiration wherever you are. So it's like people will go to you for advice even if you haven't had the same exact experience, especially because one of those gate placements in your is your one of those placements in your one channel that you have. Oh, I love that. Yes, amazing. You're gonna get a lot of clairsentience. You just know things. Clairsentience, clairaudience. Also, funny enough, Taurus moon, there's a one of the clairs, I don't remember what it's called, but with the taste. Because Cancer is very tied, or excuse me, Taurus is very tied to like food and nourishment and all those kinds of things, especially with your Mercury. I'd be curious to know, like, if you're like, okay, somebody died traumatically, if you taste blood, for example, or if like you taste like stovetop stuffing and that happens to relate, like pay attention to that, because that also can be an opportunity. Also, your Jupiter conjunct your sun. I love that. So like people just feeling very comfortable and safe with you. Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I'd be curious to know. Let me know if that happens to you in a reading in the future, not so distant future, because that would be cool. And also you have gate 5 too, which I've talked about a lot, where there's like a specific cadence and a way that like you want to go about your day, your mediumship readings and your routine, and sticking to that. I have, like for me, for example, when you book with me, it says non-refundable for my readings. I don't, if somebody, I have a very strict schedule and routine that I know that I have to keep to be my best for my clients. You're allowed one reschedule if you don't show up to the readings, not TikTok lives. You get what you get. You don't get upset. It's $8. I keep it affordable. I'm not on here charging you $80 for a 10-minute reading. I could, but I won't, right? And so that's how I choose to run my business. It works well for me. It doesn't mean it's across the board. But when I have a longer session, my half hours and my 1 hours, or you get one reschedule. If you also miss the reschedule, I record your session during that meeting, because now I've prepared twice for your one reading. I've already done work before I've gotten there. I will send you the recording. Too bad, so sad. I know things happen, but I respect my time. I also respect other people's time for that reason. And so if I'm teaching people like we do in business, especially with our placements too, rating across of consciousness is making people conscious. It's bringing them to awareness. That's our incarnation cross in human design. So it's like, where are people asleep? Are they asleep because of their grief? Are they asleep because they have a fear of the unknown with what they don't know? And also paying attention to that. Especially for you as a projector, you can get really bitter when you don't feel like you get the proper recognition. What a lot of people mistake recognition for in your frequency is attention. It doesn't mean the same thing. That's why they're not the same word in the dictionary. They're not synonymous for each other. Recognition means appreciation. You don't have to be the one that's always on stage getting every single award, but in the award speech for the person who is accepting the reward, if you've put in a lot of work for that person or that artist, for example, you want to be in that speech, because that means that you're getting properly recognized and appreciated, but having the attention is a different variation of that. So when you're a projector, the feeling that you want to get towards is called success. So it's like, do I feel successful? How do I feel success in this way? Or is this making me feel better? Where do I feel kind of resentful now that this person didn't appreciate me? And a lot of that comes with, like, for you having to recognize that, like, okay, did I not set a boundary where I said yes and I should have said no? Did I teach this person how to treat me? People don't know automatically how you want to be treated, but it's okay to be firm in telling people how you like, if you're coming into my space, like how I expect you to treat me, right? Like, how does this happen? What does this look like, right? Like, I don't care how every other person does mediumship, but for you as Amanda, you have a certain way that you do things. That's okay to be firm in that too. Again, also needing a lot of alone time. I also say for 1-3s that, like, we're the type of people that, like, if our partner or long-term partner, I don't know if you're married or a coupled or not, but if our long-term partner isn't equally as hermity or, like, doesn't equally need as much alone time, we're the type of people that also would live in separate houses from our spouses. So it's funny because that just paints a reflection of, like, really understanding the level of individuality that you need to make your career successful. I know it can be like, well, why does my living situation matter for your career? But it is a domino effect where if you don't get that certain amount of peace to prepare, it will affect the feelings that you come to in a reading. And the cycle time gets quicker as mediumship, like having those boundaries and being able to compartmentalize, because obviously life is unpredictable, but there are certain things that we can, looking back at history or just knowing how you operate, we can set ourselves up for success so that when the unpredictable does happen, we can feel it. I also wouldn't be surprised working in mediumship for a career if you start to pick up on other people's energy before you even get to the session. Like, I think a lot of mediums with your placements especially tune into their loved ones ahead of time. So, like, having spiritual office hours is also going to be something that's important. So with that being said, in the last few minutes that I have you, I'm going to read to you from the book of Yes, I can imagine. The Book of Destinies, which is about our incarnation cross in human design. Russell Brand, Angelina Jolie, Cecilia Bertoli, and Anderson Cooper all have the same life purpose and incarnation cross, also fellow Geminis. So your life purpose is to question what we are doing here, and to try to discover the meaning of it all. Through critical observation and historical reflection, you recognize patterns within the patterns that underlie all life's processes. You progressively awaken your consciousness by continually witnessing and deliberately adjusting your life through your many experiences. You trigger questions in others, allowing them the means to expand their own understanding of life. Through awakening your own consciousness, you pass the flame to those who attune to you, so they discover the way to awaken theirs. Often you will point out to others essential qualities of their lives that they have overlooked. Whether or not you understand the implications and outcomes, you help others comprehend that what they had considered to be completed thought processes are missing essential concepts or realizations. Consciousness is always in a state of growth, and you are witness to and often a catalyst for that growth. Sometimes you're the one who actively promotes new comprehensions, and at other times you're the quiet observer to the expansion going on all around. Either way, you appreciate and even in some ways dissolve into the experiences of life. You are bent on seeing progress as though you are actually getting somewhere in your journey through experiencing consciousness. This sense of progress will propel you into all sorts of encounters as you try to quench an inner craving for intimacy with life and everything life offers. You gather experiences and achievements by engaging directly with all challenges. In gatherings of people, you investigate multiple viewpoints, sincerely seeking anyone and anything that will give you a sense of change or fulfillment, however fleeting. Remember always that the truth resides within you and that your ultimate search is to find the truth. Your energy type and authority always indicate who and what will provide you with valuable experiences and who and what will not. So I will say also that like I am very stingy with my attention and like where my physical body goes, because I'm like, if I'm going to invest in going to this Friendsgiving or this Thanksgiving party or whatever I'm doing, especially during the holiday season, it's very intentional to be like, what am I truly getting out of it? And that's not to say that like it has to be like financial gain, but like appreciating with that incarnation cross that we want a well-rounded view of life. Yes. So it's like, if I'm going to the Friendsgiving, this is the Book of Destinies. I think I've read for this before, Set, when you were on, if I'm not mistaken. But this you can get on Amazon. I have it linked in on my YouTube channel. So yeah, and you need that. Like, it's like no one gets me on a Sunday. I don't even remember the last time I worked on a Sunday. It was definitely not since I've been self-employed. You're welcome. But it's funny because what I will say, right, is that like people will go out of their way with these placements sometimes, especially as a projector, hi Marie, to not support you. Which can feel really frustrating. It's like they like to be there and kind of watch from the sidelines as you're growing, but really being able to know that like your biggest investment is how you take care of your energy and teaching people how to treat you. It's like if I like told somebody that like, oh, this book is linked, like, you know, there are people who will be like, because you said that, I'm definitely not going to bother, but will like stay silent, like in, you know, and keep viewing your page or whatever. So like knowing that about your disposition as a projector, it's like your gift will be appreciated by the people who have the capacity to truly support you long term. And in those moments where it is really frustrating for people to kind of get like knock you sideways or just try to be like a little bit less supportive, your purpose is much larger than those micro moments, and it says more about the indication of them and where they're at. Yeah, exactly. And where they're at versus like feeling like you have to prove your worth to them because they inherently don't see themselves as worthy, Amanda. So it's like in your opportunity to be able to still have an open heart and know that there still are people who are going to see your worth and appreciate you. You know, it's knowing that those people still exist and just to give you that grace of understanding, especially as you grow in your business and career, it's a huge, I don't want to say like learning opportunity. Yes, that's true. But like, yeah, it's like, you're not crazy for thinking that. And because you can see it all, and it's not always, mediumship is really cool until people know that you see everything and the way that everything is played out on the world stage, and that can be painful. It's almost like a variation of like when someone asks you what superpower you want, and when you have that superpower, they're like, if you like to read minds, it's like you already kind of have that as like a psychic medium and somebody being intuitive myself. I know, right? Like being intuitive myself, it's like, oh, like I actually really don't want to see that like your husband and you are having problems because you're not addressing it with me, but the way that you're treating me right now is because you and your husband are having problems. So like I'm not a stand-in husband as like the human design lady that you met on the internet, you know, but it's like those things are like it takes a lot of respect for other people, even in the frustration of how they can treat you, to walk that line with integrity. And that's a really challenging place to be up front, but like you get used to it over time. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it's like, I'm like, okay, maybe I need like 3 days off instead of 2, you know, or depending on like what is, because not everybody, especially if they have very different placements for you, or they have placements that are a little bit like laissez-faire, I want the hands off of it. It's like, I know my threshold. That's why I was saying that, yeah, exactly. You don't mean to psychoanalyze with so much presence on accident. Exactly. Because it's like, it just happens. Like someone walks into a room and you're like, I got it. Like the way that they say hello, I'm like, I got it. And that could be like, you know, I know if someone argued right before they got into the door to a party, it's like, that's not that hard to notice, but like, it's just like Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. And I think like for those of us who, still want to be able to show up no matter our disappointments, it's also like it really tests your capacity to still have a lot of self-care. And it can be really easy to just kind of like disassociate, and sometimes disassociation is also helpful as a 1-3, but like again, finding the line of like protecting your peace is just as important as protecting somebody else's. And I'll know sometimes if I'm reading for somebody live on TikTok and I'm like, I can get frustrated or whatever, but it's like I just know in that nanosecond, like they asked for their human design chart, they didn't necessarily ask for other things, and having to compartmentalize. But some readings I'm like, okay, if you keep coming back for the same thing, knowing and having the intellectual, emotional, psychological, psychic understanding of like, is this person have capacity? Is it my place to go there? Knowing the boundaries of what you are interacting in. Yeah, and then you seem like a subtle threat to unlooking exactly the interaction. Exactly. I feel like especially projectors have that too, just because it's like you're immediately like, I'm here. Some Aries placements also, and a lot of Scorpio. I have a lot of Scorpio, so I see that too. And it also with my Pisces, like I've really had to be careful. Yeah, I didn't realize that I was doing this my whole life. It was my normal. Exactly. And then you're like, how do I explain this to my mom or like whoever that like has no like psychic abilities, or like they just don't tap into that part of themselves? And you're like, how do I explain this to somebody without sounding like I have 3 heads? Like it's that balance is very challenging. And a lot of people, it's like, I think what's hard, and thank you for letting me use your reading as a riff off of, I'll send you the recording, but this is a good conversation. What's challenging is like when you realize that people that you're close to, or friendships or family that you want to perpetually grow with, which is what our rainbow cross of consciousness wants. And a lot of us here, I feel like for all of us, I can speak for all of us, we all want momentum and we want growth and we want change. But when you look at somebody that you love and you're like, oh, this is your peak. And do you go no contact with them? What does that look like? Do you slowly like back away? Like, do you accept them as they are? It's like there's a lot of ways that it's like, even in the removal of your energy, it doesn't always have to be something malicious. It's just like, yeah, exactly. It's a perfect way to say that. Where do we go from here? It's like, oh, okay, like I've seen what I've needed to see. Justin Bieber meme. And yeah, it's like what do we do with this? And I think like in a lot of my like last like couple years, I would say from like my nodal opposition to now at the end of my Saturn return, I'll be 32 in March, is like really looking at where I'm okay with like, this is just my friend. They're not somebody, like I've known this person since I'm 11 years old. Like what they do in their spare time is like outside of my relationship. Like we're okay to just like talk about the old days, like have a good meal together, and like nothing that they're doing is actually truly hurting me. And it's that spectrum of like how people treat themselves and what they value. What are your values? So you can get a good litmus test and understanding like, where do I go from here, to sets where it's like, where do I compartmentalize this person? How do I fit them into my life? Where can we be able to move forward in this way with or without each other? And anyone who has a 3 in your profile, or has a 6 and you've hit your Saturn return, or you're leading up to it, there's a bonding strategy that we have with people that's called bonds made and broken. So it's like a lot of times too, like I've been like reflecting on this, like I'm Irish too, so like the Irish goodbye is very big, but it's like really assessing like once the bond is always going to break at some point in your relationships, but looking at that fracture or that crack and saying like, is this something that like just a little spit polish can solve, or is this something that would need like 3 hours of or like 3 major 24-hour surgeries that I'm like, I really don't, this doesn't fit into my life in this way. And, if it's meant to be, people come back together again. I just had this happen with one of my friends from childhood, and we had grown apart and then come back together. And it was like, we needed to almost like grow separately to be able to have an even stronger friendship. And that the repair of that relationship is what can make it even stronger moving forward. But you just have to really decide like, what is your true north for like where you're going what it is that you want to, like what it is that you value truly. And I think that's a big thing coming off of Scorpio season and Libra season, which is all about balancing the scales. It's what I said full circle earlier to the beginning of the live. And the other creator, I can see her face clear as day. And she's very stoic. She's a Pisces rising. And she was talking about how the only, what is it, archetype, like Libra's the scales, it's the old, or the like the actual scales, it's the only zodiac sign that's represented by an object. So it's like a little cold in that way, where it's like this is just the facts. And its best octave of it, it's like I do just like take it like I see it, put it on the scales, I'm weighing it, I'm just going in this direction, and kind of having to be like, okay, if I value respect, and this person has continuously disrespected my time, and they know that, you know, this is how I operate. If you truly are seeing me objectively like I see you, and I've explained this over and over again and repeated myself, like, and you're disrespecting me, like, even if you didn't do something malicious or it wasn't with malicious intent, you are in a place of immaturity when you can't respect that this is how I value my time. And they say, okay, laissez-faire, you can be you, but away from me. It doesn't have to be a knockdown, drag out fight. I'm not getting filmed for this reality TV where this is what I'm paid for, but it's important, I think, to reassess that. And that also is a huge energy suck. I don't like to have to repeat myself many times to people who are supposed to be my friends or my family that understand me. So people learn that very quickly about me. So much juiciness today, resonating with so many parts and pieces. I'm so glad. Yeah, once I feel like when I get into these moods where I'm responding to something, it's a little bit more of my channeled parts of my reading also. So thank you, Amanda, for posing that question. Because when we look at the Chinese zodiac, we're ending a snake year where it was a shedding of a lot of dead skin. And so moving forward, and with the year of the horse, it's not just about independently moving forward and having a cadence and how many, what's our miles per hour, but like going collectively, like a bunch of horses running together with the idea of forward momentum in like true Chinese zodiac. So being able, yeah, absolutely, I'm happy to, from 113 to another, also with the 18 channel, because I also, and I do recommend this too, I was listening to the 48 Laws of Power, and what's interesting about it is that people, like, they talk, Robert Greene, who's the author, talks about how power is very seductive. So like the way that he talks about going through the book is like, as you kind of read it, like, don't get too lost in it unless you like want to be this person. And what's helpful about reading it, especially now, is because he talks about safely times in more distant history, like how people have won or lost based on using power. And what I think is really interesting is when we start to talk about like the laws of the universe, is that like information is neutral, and how it's like up to our values that determine like it's almost like why people can, like why bad things happen to good people, like that book, or like why good things happen to bad people, I think is like the more appropriate phrase here, of like why, it's alchemy, like even though we don't see what's being taken from them or what they had to give to be able to get to where they are, there's always something people feel like is missing in some capacity, but it's like, what is the true need that you have that you want to fulfill, and is power even the answer? Hi Natural, how are you? So that's also been really interesting to read and kind of think of this conversation through that lens of like it was like how Jeff Bezos is a billionaire, uber successful in the eyes of the world in different ways, but like there were people that were like paid to go to his wedding, and so it's like when you start to observe, and I love like reality TV to also look at it as like an anthropological study for the work that I do, but like when you start to look at, like if being on a reality TV show where I was on for multiple seasons, like I know that game or the rules of that game, or like there's a certain level of drama that like I do not have like the longevity of tolerance for. So it's like some people do, because that's the exchange, or they have different placements that allow them to be able to feel more detached, and that's what they're meant for. But it's interesting when you start to look at it in those terms of like, okay, like, yeah, I want to be an actor, and it's like, okay, but do you want to be an actor, or do you want the money or the amount of money that's associated with being an actor? Maybe you want you're okay with like being behind the scenes and you're actually an introvert. I love like Cillian Murphy is a perfect example of this, where he's like truly loves the craft. He does not care about anything else that's happening peripherally outside of it. He goes in, he clocks in, he does what he loves to do, and then he does what he has to do. And the not so great parts of it, of like going on interviews and being very stoic, and he does it because it's a check off the list. So it's an exchange of like what comes with being able to act and do his craft at that level. So it's interesting when you kind of look at, again, like what do you truly value? What are the things that you want to prioritize and what that looks like for you, to be able to just get a little bit more of a personal assessment on what you need to prioritize, and is the thing that you think that you want actually is the only way that you've seen that it happens. Let's say like the only way I see getting a lot of money and recognition is through acting. Is it like the acting that you want and doing that, or is it like the actual like the money and the recognition that's associated? And there are other ways to get that maybe are a little bit more behind the scenes. It takes a lot more people than just like, you know, Noah Schnapp to who plays Will in Stranger Things, to be able to put on a production like that. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, Monique, I know. As a 5'2", I feel both sides. I want fame and exposure, but I'm shy. Absolutely. And I think it's like, the nice part is like then a solution, like using the acting as an example, you would be a great method actress. So the expectation, there's like two types of actors. There's like regular actors are called something else, but I'll say regular, and then method actors. So like people who stay in character throughout all their interactions for the entirety of the film. So which helps, like if you're dealing, like let's use like Stranger Things as a perfect example, like a level of the guy that plays Vecna, I can't remember his name, had to stay in character or separated himself from the kids because he was working in a very serious role with children who, you know, that young, if they're taken out of understanding, like that's confusing. Like even though they know that they're acting, like your brain is still developing until you're 25. And it was just actually said that until we're 32, our brains are still developing. But, you know, it's like kind of playing a role, and also like as a 5'2", knowing that like a lot of that shyness comes from people being cruel to you, which is a valid fear. And really being able to start to, the more people you work with and the more people that you truly observe, when you start to see those random comments coming in the comment section on, you know, a video that are like judging the way that you're doing something, it's like, it becomes laughable. And I know that's like a weird, like, probably not maybe the place that you're in right now, but like there's a reason that after a certain amount of time that you're doing something and you notice people become immune to like the comments, you're just like, oh my gosh, like it can still be annoying, but yeah. Yes, Peaky Blinder. Yeah. He's the one of the lead brothers in the show. Or like the lead. I only watched like the first season. I tried to watch it a couple times, but I couldn't fully get into it. Sometimes things with a lot of violence, I like have to, like, it depends on where I'm at. I'm like, if I'm already emotionally fragile, like, I don't think I can watch this right now. I need something a little bit lighter. Or just like true, like, scary stories, which sounds weird and crazy, but like when you talk to dead people, it becomes a little bit less so. You know, but yeah, so it's interesting. I think a lot of going into this year is a lot of people figuring out like, what is your true role? I know. I'm so excited for the second. So we host New Year's Eve every year. So we want to do like a Stranger Things New Year's party this year. So I'll let you know. I'll probably post it on my IG, like what we actually end up doing to our basement. But yeah, so I'm very excited. Both of the Duffy brothers are Aquarians. So yeah, so I have an Aquarius rising, Mercury and Mars. So I can appreciate the levels. And it's really hard. I feel like it's really challenging, especially with how much media we have now, to create something that like has its own kind of unique twist. So I have high hopes for the ending, like the official ending of it when the second part comes out around like Christmas and New Year's, but we shall see. I also really like when it comes to like new and kind of cerebrally interesting TV, and for you like spooky stuff, I really love Mike Flanagan, who's the creator of Midnight Mass. That's on Netflix. That was an amazing show. I love that show. His wife is also what's the one, she plays a deaf woman in a movie. He did The Oculus, which wasn't one of my favorites, but also is 2008. But yeah, he does a lot of Netflix stuff. And he also, I think, is doing some Blumhouse stuff now too, which does like horror, scary movie stuff. So we'll see. But with that being said, I'm going to sign off for the evening. Thank you guys for being with me and supporting you. I always love to be able to pour into you guys and just be like, who are my people that need me? How do we need to rally the troops so that I can help you guys feel more confident in whatever way possible to put yourself out there. I promise the recognition is not something you have to be shy about asking for, and you deserve it. Again, it's not on your heart for no reason. Monique, and to all of you guys, Jerica, Meg, Tara, Trisha, Ro, and Amanda, thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. I will be back tomorrow, I believe. I'm 50-50, but around like 7:30. Likewise, Crystal, happy early birthday. Thank you, Seth. It was nice to see you too. Thank you, Natural, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a beautiful evening.